everyone. I am so happy to be here, partially because it was a 20-minute commute to a talk, which is quite rare to me. So when Rosanna got in touch and said, did I want to come, it was an instant yes. I love Dorset, I love living here, and it's just so amazing to be giving a talk this morning. So firstly, for those of you with little ones, this isn't a talk where you have to keep them quiet, you don't have to stop them running on the stage. I love participation. If they want to cry, scream, shout, play, if you need to leave, it's all good, right? I get it, of course I get it. So that's the first thing, we can just take the pressure off ourselves there. Now, this might be a bit of a different talk because when you go to talks like this at events that are around parents and families, so much of it is about parenting, isn't it? And you might have an expert stood up here telling you how to sort out sleep or screen time or weaning or potty training. And I'm not an expert in any of that, thank God, because I made every single mistake in the book. But what I am an expert in is helping you, the woman behind the mother, or the person behind the parent. So if you're a father listening, this is just as important for you as it is for your partner. Because what I learned, and when I first became a mother, everything suddenly became about the baby, right? And rightly so for the first few months. It's kind of, they need us and we do disappear a bit. But what I learned was that as this kept happening, I was reading all these parenting books. Hands up if you've read tons of parenting books. I was reading all the parenting blogs. I was like, and none of it was really helping me with what was my core problem, right? Which was that I just felt I was so hard on myself. I genuinely believed in those early years that I wasn't a very good mum. And that breaks my heart now. And the reason that I believe that is because nobody taught me about this incredible transition that we go through. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So the next sort of half an hour, sorry kids, it's not about you, it's about your parents. And we're going to talk about some things that hopefully are going to make you feel seen. They're going to make you feel less alone. And I want to leave you with some tools and some ideas that you can take away today. This isn't just a sort of philosophical talk where I'm going to talk at you with lots of big ideas. We're going to do that too, but I want you to take some things away where you're like, I could do that this afternoon. I think that could make me feel a little bit better. Okay, so my story, I never thought that I'd be stood on stages talking about motherhood. I come from a corporate marketing background, which is kind of wild to me that that used to be my job because motherhood changed everything for me. And I wonder if some of you have had this experience where I just felt like a really different person. My old career didn't fit anymore. I thought I want to do something different. I never believed that Motherkind would turn into what it has today. And that is partly due to everyone like you who listens and supports the work. So thank you. Right, let's talk about this word that we are here to talk about, which is matrescence. Has anyone heard of it? Put your hand up. You've heard of it. Few people, right? It's gaining in a bit of popularity and it's gaining in understanding. But when I first started talking about this word, firstly, no one can say the word, right? Why do we have this word which is so important that no one can bloody say? Sorry for swearing. I actually went out onto the streets in Covent Garden in London. You know how busy it is there. And I went out with Peanut. Do you know Peanut, the app? Yeah? Went out with their content team and we were like, right, let's stop people on the street. And we held up a sign and it said matresence. And we held up the sign and we said to people, can you say this word? And we got matrescience, mattress, no one could say it. And then we said, and what do you think this word means? And someone said, is it a new game at the Olympics? Which I thought was quite creative. Someone said, it sounds like a new lingerie brand. There's some bro in a suit trying to be funny. We were like, whatever. Someone said, is it a new mattress company? We were like, yeah, it's a good guess. So what we took from this, and what I know, having done this work for nearly a decade now, is that there is this really massive transition that we go through. We all know this, right? We all know that you do not go from pregnant 1 minute to just, I'm a mother now and everything in my life is slotted together and I know how my work works and I know who I am and I know how I want to parent. Great, job done. We know that is not the experience at all. Yet, Because this isn't really spoken about or understood, it's kind of hidden. And I don't know about you guys, but because no one was talking about that, that made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Has anyone ever felt like that? That you're doing, yeah. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that we haven't talked about this process. So matrescence is the process of becoming a mother, and patrescence is the process of becoming a father. It's just the same. It's just that I happen to focus on matrescence because that's my work and my training. So matrescence is this process of becoming a mother. And the moment I heard that, I was in an early interview, maybe like number 7 or 8th guest on the podcast, said, well, you know about matrescence, right? And I was like, what? My shoulders, I vividly remember it, my shoulders dropped and I thought, oh my God, I am not failing. I am not doing this wrong. There is nothing wrong with me. It is meant to be. It is meant to be a time that is really bumpy, right? The best way to think about this is to compare it to adolescence. So adolescence, just like matrescence, is a developmental phase, right? Where we change and we grow. We all know, having gone through that, that was a time when our hormones went wild, right? And we were slamming doors and telling our parents we hated them. We didn't know who we were. I don't know about you, but one minute I would say, oh no, I like Kylie. The next minute I'd pretend I was a grunge girl and I liked Smashing Pumpkins. I never really did. I didn't know who I was. We know that that time with teenagers becoming adults is really messy, don't we? You're not sure who you are, you're not settled in your body, your hormones change, your brain changes, your body changes. And matrescence is exactly the same, but when you become a mother. Think about it. Your hormones change. Your brain actually changes more in matrescence than at any other point, including adolescence and menopause. We don't talk about this. Your brain is rewiring. It's wild. The part of your brain responsible for empathy gets bigger. Did anyone have the experience where before motherhood you might be able to watch like a sad advert and you'd be like, okay, that's really sad, but you could get through it. And then in motherhood, I'm like bawling, crying, handing over my life savings to whatever advert was on the TV. Right, everyone's nodding. That is your rewired brain. Your rewired brain focuses on empathy. This is incredible. That's why so many businesses start in motherhood. That's why this event exists, by the way. Because Rosanna, who's the head of events at the museum, she came off mat leave with this empathy for parents and she wanted to bring us together. It's phenomenal. It is a superpower. We just don't get taught that, right? We get told, oh, it's baby brain. She's got baby brain. No. Our baby brains are like on point, okay? If we know how to use them, if we can embody these skills and these strengths that we get through matrescence. Our values change. What was important to you before motherhood probably doesn't feel that important anymore, right? Those petty little things that you used to stress about. You're like, I can't believe I used to worry about that. Your time changes, your priorities change. I like to think about matrescence as a jigsaw puzzle, where you have your life, right? And it's this kind of neat jigsaw puzzle and you know your work and you know your friends, you know your family, and then you get into motherhood and I think it feels like that jigsaw puzzle being thrown up in the air. Did anyone else feel like that? And then matrescence is the process that we go through where piece by piece, we put it together and we get it wrong loads. I got it wrong loads. I was like, I think I want to go back to work full time. Tried it. Oh no, I don't like that. Take that piece out. I think I want to do my own business. Like it. That piece stayed in. Okay, I think I want to hang out with, these friends. I used to go out a lot in the evenings. I tried that. Didn't work. It's this process. So the number one thing that I really want you to know about matrescence, I keep saying this word process, and you're like, stop saying that word, because I want you to know that matrescence typically lasts between 2 and 7 years. 2 to 7 years. People say to me all the time, my DMs are flooded. I've got a 6-week-old, I feel so lost. I'm like, You are right on time. There is nothing wrong with you. I've got a 5-year-old. I still don't feel like I know who I am, what I want to do. It's fine. You are in your matrescence. Everyone moves through it differently, depending on their level of support, depending on their circumstances, their situations. Some people make huge changes in matrescence. Some people not so much. It's really similar to adolescence and menopause. But it's so important to know that you are in this phase. Because when you know it, hopefully, and this is my mission, you can give yourselves a little bit of a break. Does it feel like that? Like, okay, I'm actually right on time. There is nothing wrong with me. I am allowed to figure this out in a longer timeline. I don't have to have it all sorted. The other thing that's really important to know about matrescence is that we have to look at it a little bit in context. What does that mean? I always say we have to understand the water that we're swimming in to understand our strokes, right? We always have to look at ourselves in our environment. And the thing is, and this is something that just blew my mind, and I started interviewing all these anthropologists and historians and psychologists because I just assumed that there was something wrong with my nervous system, that a day on my own with my baby felt like times hell because it was so intense. My baby cried a lot, both of them did. And I was like, there is something wrong with me. And I had a guest on the podcast who said, you know that your nervous system was never designed to be left alone in long stretches with your baby. And I remember crying if you listen to the podcast, I cry pretty much every episode. I'm a bit better now, but in the early days, it was just me just crying. People liked it, turns out. I remember crying because I thought, the worst thought I ever had was, do I not love her enough? Because I remember that feeling of like, when is it nap time? When is it bedtime? Because my nervous system was on fire, right? I was in fight or flight the whole time. So what's really important to understand is that our biology, and this is for all genders, is designed to raise children in community. We know this, right? People go, it takes a village, but I think that phrase is like confetti, right? It doesn't really land in our hearts, but actually it does take a village. It was designed to take a village. So the way that our biology and our nervous systems were designed is to raise children in small groups of 50 people. So if you were a mother back in our hunter-gatherer days, how many other involved caregivers do you think you would have had with your child? Shout some numbers at me. 20. The average mother would have had 8. Can you imagine 8 people being in your home every day going, I'll take the baby, I'll cook this, you lie down. That is how our biology, our nervous system is designed. It's called alloparents. It's incredibly well studied. But that isn't how we do it today, is it? We have a system that isn't really fit for how we're actually meant to raise our children. But instead of going, well, this system isn't right, most parents I know go, I must be wrong. And that's what we really need to change. Obviously, we're not going to go back to then. That's not about it. It's about understanding ourselves in this context. We're also in an environment now where, even 100 years ago, which is a blip, really, if you think about the length of human history, even 100 years ago, you would have had one working parent and one caregiver parent. That isn't the case anymore because of the cost of living, right? So we've got 2 often dual working families living far away from our extended family because we have to move for work, or they had to move for work, with these nervous systems that actually aren't designed to raise children in this way. And then we go, oh, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. I need to be a better mum. It's actually insanity, isn't it? So I really, really, really want you to take away this idea that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not failing. You're going through your matrescence. And if you go through your matrescence supported, if you engage with my work, read my book, take some of my courses, or anyone's, right? There's just so many amazing people doing this work in this world. You will emerge from your matrescence stronger, more confident, clearer. You get these superpowers, right? You get these superpowers of clear thinking, of empathy, and we can use those in every area of our lives. I had one guest on the podcast who told me that staying at home with young children is more stressful than 98% of the world's paid jobs. Right? Obviously, this went instantly viral because you had half of the people, typically mothers, not always, going, thank God someone has said it and seen me. Right? And then the other half, typically would be the men working, would be like, this is insane. There's absolutely no way. You have no idea how stressful my job is. So what we need to do is just, on both sides, increase understanding of what it is really like to become a mother and a parent in 2025. It is incredibly challenging, but with the right support like my podcast and other people, supporting yourself, and that starts with self-compassion. That's why I call my work. People say, why'd you call it Motherkind? Is it a thesis on mankind and your anti? I was like, no. It's very simple. I just needed my own kindness more than anything else. And I think each of us need that. We need our own kindness more than anything else. Okay, so we talked about matrescence. Matrescence is the same process, the same reorganizing of our lives that our partners might go through if we have them. We've talked about the environment that we're parenting, how actually it's completely unnatural. We're not designed to raise our children how we do today, and to take that pressure off yourselves. Social media has led to so much pressure. It's meant some amazing things. I wouldn't be stood here without it, but I think it's so easy to think at every turn that we're failing, or that we're doing it wrong, or that we should be doing it differently, or we should be doing it like that person or like that person. This is new. This is really new. And we're the generation that is trying to figure that out. Not only are we trying to figure it out for ourselves, we're trying to figure it out for our kids. And now we've got AI coming down the line. So what we need to do is give ourselves a break. I want you to think about every single day something that you're doing well. Your brain is wired to focus on what you're doing badly. Did you know that? It's called negativity bias. Your brain is wired. It's a development, makes sense, right? Because when our brains were developing, it didn't help. Your brain isn't interested in happiness, it's interested in survival. So when we were developing, it's hyper-vigilant to what's going wrong. And if you've got little ones, all day, every day goes wrong, right? So we have to counter that scale to think about what is going right. What am I doing well, okay? When you start to do that, your confidence will grow. I promise you. I've seen it thousands of times with people that I've worked with. And when your confidence starts to grow, guess what? You compare less. You make more empowered decisions. You go for it. You might quit that job or start that business or decide to homeschool, even though no one in your family ever had. This is what confidence brings you, but it all starts with how you speak to yourself. Okay, so for the rest of the talk, I want to talk to you about, there's so many tools that I teach. They are all in the book, and it's available downstairs. I'm going to do some signing afterwards. But I was thinking about, if I've got time, probably for just 3, what would those be? And so that's what I want to share with you now, which is the 3 things that I think can make this phase of our lives when we've got little ones, this wild, insane ride, full of pressure and stress and joy, of course. But there's these 3 tools that I think can really help. Okay, and the first one is to get rid of the idea of self-care. Who feels pressure to do self-care? Yeah. So we've sort of been sold this idea that self-care is you're stressed out, just do some self-care. I really, really feel strongly that it's almost gaslighting us, right? It puts the problem back onto us. It forgets the context that I was talking about earlier. And often it's been commoditized. So self-care is sold to us from products, things we should do, things we should buy. So when I first entered the motherhood world, we were sort of peak self-care. It's all everyone was talking about. And I kept thinking, well, isn't it about other care? Because what I really want is for someone to come and look after me. What I really want is for someone to make me dinner. Yes, I could cook myself something nutritious and that would be good self-care, but actually, I've kind of breastfed a baby for 12 hours today, which, by the way, is a 9-hour-a-day job, which is the equivalent to bigger than a full-time role if you're breastfeeding. You use the equivalent calories of a marathon a day when you're breastfeeding, so that's just some side note. It is a full-time job. I really want someone to look after me. So I started to think about this idea of other care, and I think that is really important to think about. But not everyone has access to that other care, do they? Not everyone has a partner who's home in time to help us. Not everyone has a partner. Not everyone has family around us. So I started to think, okay, if we reject this self-care, what can actually help us? And I started to notice that when I got a bit clearer about my own energy levels, everything got easier. So when I started to research this, turns out managing your energy is a huge area of psychology, and there's actually a course on it at Stanford Uni. They teach it to their top executives. One of the first things they teach is how to manage your energy. And I thought, isn't that incredible? Because if there's ever a group that need to know how to manage our energy, it's us. But no one was taking this work and making it fit for our modern lives as mothers, right? So that's what I've done. So energy management sounds a bit, whatever, but what it really is knowing what is it for you. Every single person this will be different for. What is it for you that gives you energy in your life? I wonder if anyone sort of knows what that is. Lots of people, when I ask them, they look at me blank-faced because it's so unusual to think about ourselves, right? When we're in this busy treadmill season. I'd get you to think about what is it that gives you energy? Is it that one friend who, whenever you call, you feel better? Is it making sure that you get outside? Is it making something nice for yourself and eating it that afternoon? Is it doing a little bit of exercise? Is it watching new Molly May? I'm obsessed with it. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But what matters is that you know what it is for you. Because if you don't know what gives you energy, how can you start to manage it for yourself? Okay, and energy is the number one thing that we need to do all the things that we've got to do. We know about the mental load, right? The average primary caregiver works 98 hours a week, paid and unpaid. That is the equivalent of 2.5 full-time jobs. They start on average at 6:23 a.m. and I often think, if you're lucky. And the day ends at 8:30, and I often think, if you're lucky, because I've got a 10-year-old now, and let me tell you, it's 10 p.m. that I finally get to clock off. So we need to manage our energy. That is a lot of hours. So you have to know, what are those things? It's like being a detective in your own life. You have to care enough to think, what is it that gives me energy, and how can I build that in? And keep it simple. I have seen, I'm not exaggerating, people that I've coached, really high-level people that I've coached, this one simple tool has completely changed how they're able to show up to their family, how they're able to show up to their kids, how they're able to show up at work. So think about that. What is it that gives you energy? And make sure you intentionally do it. The other side is what drains your energy. If we think about ourselves as a phone, right? I think about myself as a phone all the time. I look after my phone so much better than I look after myself, I swear. It's always charged, I'm cleaning it, but bonkers. But we're charging our phones. That's giving ourselves energy. We also need to think about, when you've got too many tabs open, literally and metaphorically, and you have to swipe up the tabs on your phone, okay? That's what we need to do as well, right? We need to, what is it that's running in the back of my head that is draining me? Is it that person in my life? It's often a person in someone's life. Is it that thing that I keep doing? I keep promising myself I'm not going to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll until I just can't even see straight anymore. I keep doing it, but I know it's draining me. You will all know as I'm saying this, everyone's nodding, that one thing that it is for you. So I want you to think about it and think, what is a 1%, a tiny shift that I can make that can get rid of that drain? And it might seem, you might be saying, Zoe, are you kidding me? I've got 2-3 kids, I've got a job, I've got family, and you are telling me that one thing that gives me energy and one thing that drains my energy is going to make a difference. I know it can seem like there's so much to focus on. And that is why everything that I do is so simple, because we don't have time for complexity. And everything that I've done is, everything I teach is proven, it's tested, okay? I know this works. I know that if you guys went away and put this in place, it would make a difference. So that's the first tool. Think about managing your energy. It's not the CEOs that need these tools, it's us, right? We've got to do it. Okay, and the second one is how you talk to yourself. I am someone who's got a really loud inner critic. Has anyone else got that? Yeah, so when I walk off this stage, it's a bit better actually, to be fair these days, but there will be a voice that's like, that was really bad. Everyone's gonna laugh at you. It will be there, okay? That is what the inner critic is. The inner critic is that voice that says, you don't know what you're doing, you're failing your kids. It can be really loud and it can be really insidious and subtle. But it is so important as mothers that we get on our own side. The second chapter of my book is called Get on Your Own Side. Because as I see it, we live in a world that doesn't really understand what it's like to be a modern mother. We have so much pressure, more pressure, I would argue, than any other generation. And what we do is we kind of collude in that. We decide, yeah, I'm wrong, I'm not doing it right. We kind of jump in and create more pressure for ourselves. That's insane. We need to do the opposite. We need to go, I see all this noise, I see all this insanity, I see the pressure, I see the systems that don't work for us. I see it all. I know I can't change it, I see it, and I'm not going to collude in it. I'm going to decide I'm doing my best, and that's okay. We have to build up that muscle. There's a reason that athletes, that CEOs, anyone at any high level has a coach, right? Because we all need that voice. And most of the mothers that I speak to don't have an inner coach. They don't have someone like me going, you're doing a great job. Let's think about what we can change. How can we make it better for you? How can you do this thing that you want to do? Most of us have an inner bully, and that is what we have to change. What's actually mind-blowing, if you need another little incentive to start thinking about this, is that it impacts our children as well. Because how we speak to ourselves becomes how we speak to our kids. It's really hard if you've got an inner bully saying you're failing, you're not doing right, you're late, what's wrong with you, why do you always do this, to then speak to our children consistently with kind of care and compassion. It's hard to do that, right? It's much easier to speak to our children based on how we're speaking to ourselves. And this is generational. So it's not actually the inner critic, it's more the inherited critic. Because how our caregivers spoke to us often becomes that little inner voice. Does anyone have that where they might hear a caregiver or a teacher if you're doing something like, who do you think you are, right? It's actually absorbed in us. So we have so much power here. And the way to do it is super simple. You just got to notice what some of those thoughts are and then challenge them. So if I do get a thought, let's see, I don't know if I will, but if I do get a thought when I walk up the stage, which is like, well, that was rubbish, I won't just leave that. I'll be like, no, you did your best. I'll catch it and I'll quickly reframe it. How you talk to yourself has been proven to be the number one thing that determines your happiness. Obvious, right? So obvious. How you talk to yourself determines how happy you are, of course, because it impacts everything. Your inner voice is with you wherever you go, at the playground, in the work meeting, tonight, it's with you everywhere. So it's so simple to start to change it. It will have a huge impact on your mothering experience and your experience as a woman. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is guilt. Who's experienced guilt? Yes. When I first started Motherkind, someone said to me, I said, I really want to talk about guilt. I really want to talk about how we can change it. And someone pretty well known in this space was like, oh, it just sort of comes with it. You just have to learn to live with it. And I thought, that is not going to really wash with me, because guilt is toxic. It makes us feel small. It makes us feel like we're doing something wrong. It makes that inner critic just go on times 1,000, turn the volume up, right? And so I thought, I'm not really going to accept that. And I'm a researcher and I've read, I'm just such a nerd. And so I really researched and I really wanted to understand, what is guilt? What is going on here and how can we change it? So guilt actually at its core is when we've done something that goes against our values. right? So if I didn't show up to this talk, just went, oh, I don't really feel like it today, I'm not going to go. I mean, I can't imagine a world in which someone would do that. But say I did that, I would feel guilty. That would be a good thing, right? Because one of my values is show up for my commitments. That's what is pure guilt. Problem is, when you add mother or parent or father in front of the word, it takes on a completely different beast, right? We feel guilty for everything. Many mothers tell me they feel guilty about their birth experience. They feel guilty about how they weaned or didn't wean. Breastfeeding, I felt guilty about that for so long because I couldn't breastfeed. Tell me they feel guilty about working, not working, how much they earn, how much they don't earn, how they parent, how they didn't parent, where they live. I mean, it's just like we have to change this. Don't just accept feeling guilty all the time as part of parenthood. Absolutely not. What we've got to do is really quickly figure out, is this good guilt? And I know that sounds weird, calling guilt good, but it can be, right? If it goes against your values, or is this toxic guilt? And so I came up with this model called the 80-20 model because 80% of it is just toxic, right? It's just toxic. It's normally about measuring yourself against way too high standards. I had a client once, I don't do one-to-one coaching anymore because the other side of the business took off. But when I did, I had a super senior client. She was running a bank in the city of London, and she said to me, I feel so guilty. I was like, tell me. She's like, I'm working all day, and I'm doing this, and she's like, and I'm only able to cook them like 4 meals a week from scratch. And I remember just sat there, and in coaching, they called it holding space, right? Which is where you basically just sit in silence until the other person realizes this is insane. And so I thought, this will work. So I just sat in silence, and she kind of sat there, and then she went, I'm insane, aren't I? I was like, you are insane. I said, where did you get this rule that a good mum is cooking from scratch more than 4 times a week? She's like, I have no idea. And this is in every single area of our lives, right? We absorb these weird rules about what it means to be a good mum. Sometimes from social media, sometimes from the press, sometimes from our own parents. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but we've all got them. Your job, your mission, should you wish to accept it, is to think about what are the standards that you're measuring yourself against that are bonkers. You will all have them. That is how you're going to start to free yourselves from this guilt. Define your own standards. I normally swear at that point, effing standards, but I can't do that. Define your own standards. Don't let social media tell you what you're going to feel guilty or not feel guilty about. You decide for you. It's one of the most empowering things that you can do. The other thing on this toxic guilt, so many people say to me, Zoe, I feel so guilty. I'm like, tell me. They're like, I want to be in this work meeting. I think I'm going to get promotion this year. I've got to be there, but it's also sports day. Why are they always on the same day, by the way? The most important thing at work and the thing at nursery or school, always the same day. I swear, it's sent to test us. And I'll say, you're not feeling guilt because you're not actually doing anything wrong. What you're feeling is tension, right? Because you wish, and I wish, and all of us wish, that we could be in 2 places at once. You cannot. Motherhood, modern parenthood, is full of one thing, right? Making really difficult choices. Really difficult choices about everything. And whenever you make a difficult choice, even when you make the absolute best decision, guess what there always is? Tension, right? At the decision you didn't make. The moment you embrace, that is always going to be there. I've chosen this school, but should I have gone with that one? I've chosen this nursery, but should I have gone with that one? I've done this, but should I have done... The moment you go, that's just part of life. And the reason the volume feels so loud is because you care so much. And that makes you incredible parents. So that tension isn't a sign that you're doing anything wrong. It's a sign you're doing it right. So we're going to get rid of this guilt. From this moment, I want you to be changed with guilt. I want you to think, there was my life where I felt guilty and I questioned myself all the time, and then there was my life after hearing Zoe talk about it, and I've decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to let someone else's standards define my parenthood. I'm not going to let that inner critic tell me that I'm not doing it right. I'm not going to play it small anymore. I'm not going to question myself. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to know that I am going through my matrescence. It's going to be up and down. I'm going to put lots of the jigsaw pieces in the wrong place. That is part of the process. I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to know I'm an incredible parent. I'm an incredible mother. And actually, as I go through this process, I know that I'm going to emerge more confident, more myself. You are all going to be incredible models for your children. You just have to believe it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Welcome.
Would you like to do a couple of Q&As?
Yes, questions, please.
Any questions in the room up here?
Or comments or reflections, stuff you didn't agree with, stuff that surprised you. Stuff you went like that, stuff I didn't agree with.
I was just saying I didn't realise it could happen on your second baby as well.
Yes. Yes, you go through a different matrescence with every child. And I don't know what your guys' experience is. I've got two. They were so different. My first matrescence taught me self-compassion, and my second matrescence taught me confidence and empowerment. Like my second daughter, she just taught me, you've got to do it your own way, Mum. We've just got to, because it was the pandemic. And I made some, difficult decisions. Everyone was homeschooling, and I decided not to do it. I just opted out of doing that. And it really taught me confidence. And so every child brings with it a different matrescence, will unearth different qualities in you as a woman. Is that your first or second? Second. Do you want to share what your second matrescence has been like?
I don't know. I'm kind of worried. I didn't realise it was going to change again.
Yeah.
And I'm not who I was.
No. This idea of bouncing back is the most toxic thing that we have as well in our societal messaging. You don't bounce back. It's insane. You can't. The advice that I kept getting before Motherkind was, don't worry, you'll get back to your old self. Whenever I mention it to anyone, I feel really different. They'd go, don't worry, you'll get back to your old self. That is the worst advice. It's not true. Humans are meant to evolve forward, and every experience in our life changes us. It is meant to. So to say to a parent who might have been through fertility struggles, a birth trauma, discovered courage or heartbreak that they never knew was possible to feel, and most of us have had those experiences, to say, let's erase that and take you back to the person you were before. I'm sorry, what? It's insane. We grow forwards. We're meant to evolve if we choose to see it that way. So thank you for that question. Super important.
Any more?
It's not really a question. It's more of something that you said earlier. You said about how you speak to your child. So if you're speaking badly about yourself, and then you can do it onto your child.
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite. So I had in my upbringing, I was quite discouraged. I had some bit of baggage, but how I am with my son now, I'm the complete opposite. I go maybe overboard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got any.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're a cycle breaker.
I just don't want him to have the same upbringing that I had, so it's quite a big. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
But I'm, and I don't know if I go a bit too overboard with it sometimes.
Okay.
Because I want him to look back and be like, I had a really good childhood. I felt encouraged. I've got parents who love me.
He knows that. You are a cycle breaker. A cycle breaker is someone who takes their experience of childhood and says, I'm going to do it differently. And that is incredibly powerful. I really see you. I'm a cycle breaker. It's so powerful. I think everyone to some degree is a cycle breaker, right? We all have things where we think, I'm going to do that differently. What I wonder if your question is about is something which is sometimes called the pendulum effect, which is where we can pendulum from one extreme to the other. And I noticed this in my own parenting in the early days. I really struggled with boundaries because I'm a people pleaser by nature, right? And so I noticed that I was penduluming too far the other way. So I think that might be something for you to reflect on. I mean, I personally believe that you can't give children too much positive encouragement, right? It's actually impossible. But if you feel like I'm actually not so good on the no and the boundaries, and that might be something to just explore within yourself. But I would just honor and just take a moment to reflect on how incredible it is that you are able to give your child a different experience than you had. That is hard. That is hard, and it is incredible, and they are so lucky to have you. I'll give you a hug after.
Yeah, there's another one down here.
Hi, I was going to ask, what would you say motherhood, what was the biggest change to your identity that you experienced when you entered motherhood? That was a real big surprise to you, that was unexpected?
I think it was about my worth as a human, just to get really deep. Why not? We're all friends now, right? Because I'd been someone who'd valued a lot of my achievements. I'd been quite successful in my corporate career, and that's all about 360 reviews and how are you doing and have you got a promotion and da, da, da. So a lot of my value is around achievement, busyness. You know, I did well at uni. I'd always got straight A's. I was that annoying girl. And so kind of maternity, to me, feels like going from fifth gear to an emergency stop. Where suddenly, there was no meetings in the diary. There was no one telling me I'd done a good job or a bad job, just this critic telling me I'd done a really bad job. My nervous system didn't really know how to slow. And so I noticed in those early days, I was like, I'll just go to I used to go to like 3 or 4 baby classes a day. Mental. Absolutely mental. But that's because I hadn't learnt yet how to downregulate. I hadn't learnt yet that so much of motherhood is about presence and softening. I thought it was still about running and achieving. And so that's been the biggest shift. And I knew that when I built Motherkind, I was like, right, I've got a choice here. I can build it on that sort of masculine, busy, pushing energy, or I can actually build it with this new skill that I've got, which is unbelievable efficiency in short amounts of times and an ability to kind of downregulate and be present. So that is a massive shift for me. Yeah, and to this day, I'm grateful for that experience, because otherwise, I think without motherhood, I would have just kept running, and I probably would have this big senior job, but be so disconnected from my body, living in burnout and stress. And that isn't my reality today, because I was forced. I think that fourth trimester, certainly the first 3 months, it really forces you, doesn't it, to slow down. And if that's new, that can feel so scary and confusing. Yeah. What was it for you? Do you mind sharing?
To be honest, I would probably say I'm still in it. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old boys, and we've just relocated from Australia to England for a year. So I just keep finding new challenges for myself. It's just the wildness. It never slows down. And like you said, the nervous system, that's huge.
Yes.
Because you constantly see your to-do list that never ends.
Did you see how I just did a big exhale then? You even need to say it, and I'm like,
yeah.
Yes.
So learning to be present and letting go of everything
There's
else.
so much of that in the book, because I didn't have that skill. Like, my only skill was like pushing harder, really. That was my way out. Or avoiding my feelings. Those were my 2 main coping strategies, and they don't really work. So I wrote a lot in the book about how you just feel your feelings. So you can teach your kids cycle breaking and to down-regulate, because when you're in flight or fight, your kids are going to constantly activate that stress response. If you don't know how to turn it off, you are going to snap more than you want to. You're going to want to bolt out the room more than you want to. You're going to fawn, which is like giving into your boundary more than you want to. So, yes.
Brilliant. Please join me in thanking Zoe.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Please do check out her work on Motherkind. We're going to be up here for just a couple of moments if you want to come up and say hello. And then we're going to be heading down to the Tamiya Hall where Zoe's book is available to purchase. And where we'll be hosting a little book signing. So we'll be down there in probably 5-10 minutes time. Our next talk is at 12:45. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.